Good morning, students. Can you hear me? Good morning, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry for the small delay. Okay. Yeah. So today we are going to start our building economics lectures. You might not know me before because I recently joined the faculty, and I'd like to introduce myself first. So my name is Pubudu Damsara, as you can see, and I'll be a lecturer for the building economics lectures, as well as mostly for the transportation engineering lectures in the future modules. So altogether we have 15 students here. I'm not, the people are joining in as it seems. I'm not going to give you a chance for each and every student to uh, introduce yourself, but I would like to know who is your batch representative.
Sir, I'm the representative of the CBST department.
Okay, so say Mini, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so anything that I need to communicate with your batch, I will communicate it with you, right?
Okay, sir.
Okay. So altogether, how many students you have in your batch?
30 students.
30,
Our
right?
department. 30
Yeah,
students.
in the department. Okay, so the students will join in as it seems. And during the lectures, if you have any questions, anyone can ask the question either using the chat or uh, switching on your mics. I don't mind interrupting the lectures in between for questions. For any questions, any clarifications, you can ask questions at any time. And hopefully all the students will keep your mics muted without interrupting others. And in case you need to have any questions, you need to ask any questions only, you can switch on your mics and ask the questions, or else you can use the chat. So time to time, I will ask whether you understood the concepts or maybe whether you have any questions and clarifications. So by that time also you can raise your questions, or you can raise anything that you need to clarify. So during the lectures, you have some examples that I will give, and I will allow some time to complete those examples as well. And at that time, I would like to see all of the students are uh, working on those examples and putting your answers in the chat. And at the same time, let's say for an example, if you have any questions during the lectures, uh, I don't mind whether you ask the questions on the English medium or single medium, but to maintain the mode of communication, I will keep answering on English, and time to time, if you don't understand anything, I can explain it some sort of things in single as well. Are we clear on the basic background?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me first share you the module description. So altogether, we will have 14 weeks of lectures, hopefully. And let me share the module description first. Yeah, here it is. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
So in this module, the building economics, there are few learning outcomes and the aims of this module to understand and evaluate the economics of building. So first of all, I would like to uh, take you through the modules or the lessons that we need to cover throughout this particular semester. So first, today we will try to cover this introduction to building economics part. So as an introduction to this particular module, we will try to identify the basic concepts of economics and how it related to the building economics or the construction industry. Then in the next few classes, we will try to move on to this economic context on buildings. For an example, materials, labor, and the physical capital, and the economic aspects of design decisions, and the finance, how to finance the construction projects, the future performances of building projects. For an example, what are the future trends, the sustainability aspects, and the intelligent buildings, the hot topics on this building constructions. And the sixth will be economic performance analysis. There we will be focusing on what are these feasibility studies, how to do a feasibility study, what are these life cycle cost analysis and cash flow diagrams. Next, we will have the benefits and value of buildings. So altogether, we have these lessons, and at the end, we will have some assignments. At the meantime, during the what we call as during the semester, it may be in class assignments, in class in the sense online. Maybe if the situation get like better, we can have physical lectures in the future, and finally we will have a written exam. Mostly your assignments will be either in class or take home assignments. So you can do those assignments and score marks as well. So roughly, let's say 40% of the marks will be allocated for the 30 to 40% will be allocated for the assignment, and rest from the final exam. Are we clear on this regard as well? Any clarifications? Do you have anything to be clarified here? Seems no, right? I hope I'm clear for you. Am I audible and clear for you? Yes. Okay. So let's start straight away. Start the first lesson regarding the introduction. I'll share my screen first. Can you see my screen? The PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, sir.
So let's start with the building economics first lecture, which is regarding the introduction. First of all, in this particular module, there are few learning outcomes that we need to achieve at the end of the module. Those are including on successful completion of this module, you'll be able to analyze, evaluate, and apply some economic principles appropriate to the building construction. So not all the economic principles will be applied here. You will learn the economic principles which are appropriate for the building construction. And we'll be able to explain the application of these economic principles in the construction industry as well. Third learning objective will be to evaluate the suitability of example cost models. We have several cost models. So we basically have these cost models to get an idea on what happens to the cost and what happens to the benefits before actually doing it. That's why we are using models in these particular scenarios. Otherwise, we should actually or practically do the particular project and get to know whether it is profitable or not. So that will cost lots of money in terms of getting an experiment. So before actually doing the project, what we do is we will use these models. We call them as cost models to get an idea whether this particular project is profitable for us or not. So there we are learning about, we are talking about something called as break-even analysis. Break-even analysis in the sense there's a point called as break-even point, where in that particular point we don't have any profit, either we don't have any loss. So whatever the money we spent on that project will be returned, but still we don't have any profit on that particular project, doing on that particular project, or we don't have any loss on engaging with that particular project. So those are the uses of these cost models. Fourth, we will evaluate the engineering techniques for new building refurbishment, whole life implications, and business operations in management. Finally, the final learning outcome will be the economic performance analysis for building sector. So before moving on to the lesson, I would like to show you the recommended books for reading on this particular lesson or particular module. So if you need, if you think you need to read further on this these topics or on these theories that we are going to learn in this particular module, I would highly recommend these two books for you. And I'm mostly I'm going to use these books for the lecture note preparations as well. So there are a few examples that you can use in these books as well. Some examples are like, they have answers within it as well, and some worksheets within those books as well. So if you could find these two books from the internet or maybe in any other resources, you can use them for the further readings as well. Okay, so now let's move on to the today's lesson. So in today's lesson, the overview is simply consist of basically 5 parts. First, we will be focusing on the introduction to building economics. So what is building economics? What do we mean by economics, and what do we mean by building economics? Then we will try to form a relationship between the demand and supply. So we have two terms in economics called as the demand and the supply. So what do we mean by demand and what do we mean by supply will be covered on that particular report. Then after defining those demand and supply, we will try to perform a relationship between demand and the supply. Then we will be focusing on the economic resources. So what are the economic resources available in terms of the building constructions, as well as we have something called as the opportunity cost. So we'll first try to define opportunity cost, and then we'll try to do some example questions related to these opportunity costs. So how to calculate them and how to compare them. Finally, we will be focusing on trade-off and the production probability curve. That is another economic aspect which we need to know as a background in terms of building economics as well. So without wasting further time, we will first we will directly move on to the introduction part. So if I ask you a question like, what do you know about economics? What is economics? Any idea? You can put your answers in the chat, or you can switch on your mics and just tell your answers. I don't mind whether your answers are correct or wrong. We are here to learn. I highly encourage your voices to raise up, or you can put your answers in the chat. No one would laugh at you whether your answers are correct or wrong. The only thing we need to know is we need to try on these particular questions. We need to attempt. So what is economics? What do you know about economics? Any idea? What is economics? And if you don't know, just say that you don't know what is economics so far as well. I mean, I would like to have your responses as well. What do you know about economics? Mostly you will not be in an economic background. You might not have learned these economics before, unless you have any one of you are doing doing CIMA or AAT parallel to these degrees. What is economics? Yes. Any answers? Someone of you of your yeah. So we have an answer. It's a connection among production, consumption, and supply. Okay. Yes, partly correct. Mostly correct. It's a connection among production, consumption, and supply. So we received an answer from one of your batchmates. Do we have any other definitions from anyone else? Okay, we have another answer saying that science that deals with the making, distributing, selling, and purchasing of goods and services. Okay, science that deals the making, distributing, selling, and purchasing of goods and services. Okay, so both of you have partly got some connection to the definition. Yes, we have another answer. One that focuses on meeting needs and requirements through the allocation of residual resources with alternative uses. Okay, it seems a better definition on economics. I hope needs and requirements in the sense needs and wants and needs. It seems like needs and requirements. What do you mean by needs and requirements are wants and needs, right? So one that focuses on meeting the wants and needs through the allocation of resources with alternative uses, residual resources with alternative uses. Yeah. Anyone else would like to attempt? Basically, what do we mean by this economics is, this word economics comes from a Greek word actually. What it means in economics, eco is meaning for the home, nomos is meaning for the accounts in Greek. So maintaining the home accounts is the base of these economics. Later, it has been expanded and currently it is a study of resources, scarcity, and the consequent choices necessary to satisfy the needs of consumers. So you might have some new terms here. The study of resources, yes, it can be understandable. Scarcity, what do we mean by this scarcity? And the consequent choices necessary to satisfy the needs of a consumer. So these needs and wants are mainly satisfied using the available resources, and how to balance those available resources and the needs or the wants of the consumers. That is basically what we do through this economics. A balance or balancing the wants and the resources that we are having. Wants of the consumers and the resources that are available, how to match them up. That is the main thing that we do under this economics. So as a definition, we can say the economics is a social science directed at satisfaction of needs and wants through the allocation of scarce resources. What are these scarce resources? This is the base of this scarcity, which have alternative uses. So what do we mean by scarcity? Any idea on scarcity? I'm trying to get the answers to these unknown terms from you, because it will, it will help you to think a lot on these terms without like just remembering the terms and living like, parroting all the things for the exams. What is scarcity? We have an answer saying scarcity means lot of cash following less amount of resources. Lot of cash following less amount of resources. Um, I would say partly correct answer, but the cash, we don't need to we don't need to involve cash into this one, because cash is something that the people have made in order to exchange of value. Yes, we have another answer. Demand for a good or service is greater than the potential for the good or service. Potential in the sense, I think you are referring to the supply of the good or service, right? Demand for a particular service or a good is greater than the demand, or sorry, supply of that particular good and the service. I hope that's what you mean. Do we have any other uh, definitions for scarcity? I mean, I'm not expecting you to Google scarcity and put your answer in here. What I need to know is whether you have some sense on this scarcity. What do you mean by scarcity? It's completely okay. You might not know these words before, because this is not economic degree, no? So scarcity. Limitation of resources. Mhm. Yes, all these answers are giving some hint, like having some correct wording terms within them. So simply what we mean by scarcity is we have limited resources and unlimited wants. So the limitation of the resources and the unlimited wants that we have as consumers is what we call as scarcity. Even though we have limited resources, we have unlimited wants. So that is what we call as scarcity. So here what it says is, in the definition, a social science directed at the satisfaction of the needs and wants through the allocation of scarce resources, that is limited resources which we need to use for the satisfaction of all our wants. So as an definition for the economics, we can say a social science directed at the satisfaction of wants and needs through the allocation of resources for the scarce resources which have alternating uses. Are we clear on this basic introduction? Anything that you need to clarify before moving forward? This is just still we are defining the economics. We didn't come to the building economics part yet. Building economics is actually a sub branch of the economic tree. So before moving on to the building economics, we need to have a proper understanding on what is economics. So are we clear on what is economics? Any questions? Yes, we are clear, right? Okay. So why do we need economics? If I ask you, why do we need economics? I'm asking a bit a lot of questions within the lecture. That's the way I'm conducting lectures. I hope it is just to interact yourself without just reading the things that is available in the slide. I would like to interact with the students, since this is using online platform. I know it is not very easy to uh, listen to a lecture throughout the period, as well as it is not easier to teach either. So we would have some interactive sessions in between. So for that only, I'm making a lot of questions out of you. I'm trying to get answers for them from you. So why do we need economics? Why economics? Any idea? Why economics? What are the uses? So why do we need economics? Yes. Any idea? Why do we need economics? If you have no idea, also you can put that in the chat as well. Like we are here to learn. Yes. To understand how decisions are made. To understand how decisions are made. What are the decisions that you are referring to? Decisions on what? Understanding how decisions are made is a partially correct answer, but what is decision? What are the decisions that you are referring to? No idea. Basically, we need economics to answer, to help us to find the answers to these basic questions like what do we need to produce? Yes, to understand how the things in the world really works, like businesses, countries, markets. Yes. So basically, we need economics to answer these questions, like uh, in order to help us to find the answers to the basic questions, like what do we need to produce, what to produce, and how to produce it, and for whom to produce it. It can be either a product like a biscuit or something. It can be a building construction, road construction, or whatever it is. So what do we need to produce in order to answer a particular question in the industry, and how to produce them, what is the most optimum method to be used, and for whom to produce. So what are our general audience, target audience? We have another answer saying supply and demand things such as price, wages, and the availability of goods. Yes, we have something called as supply and the demand in economics. We'll be learning about it in this next few slides. There we have a law of demand and law of supply uh, in order to control the prices of these goods. So we'll be moving on to those parts as well. And let's move forward to the next slide. The economics basically refers to the study of scarcity and the choice. Scarcity, if you heard the word scarcity, now you need to remember scarcity is we have limited resources and unlimited wants. So the study of these limited resources and the unlimited wants are what we basically do under this economics. And it finds way of reconciling unlimited wants with the limited resources. So how to balance these unlimited wants with the limited resources? That is what we mainly try to do using this economics. How to balance these unlimited wants with the limited resources. It basically explains the problems of living in communities in terms of underlying resources, costs, as well as consumer benefits. So how to live in communities. So the problems associated with living in communities in terms of the underlying resource costs and the consumer benefits. So we need to maintain the resource costs. At the same time, we need to have benefits to the consumers as well. So how to balance them, how to reconcile these unlimited wants and the limited resources are the main things that we're trying to refer under these economics. So as I said earlier, building economics is a sub-branch of the main tree of economics. So it is the branch of a general economics, which is based on the application of these economic principles related to the construction industry. So whatever the economic principles related to the construction industry, we are referring to them under this building economics. So building economics is a branch of general economics, which is based on application of principles of economics related to the construction industry. So under this building economics, we are mainly concerned with the allocation of limited resources or the scarce resources in building construction sector. Whatever the sector we are referring to, we have very limited resources. We can't say we have unlimited resources in any sector. So it's common to the building or the construction sector as well. So under building economics, we are mainly considering how to allocate the scarce resources or the limited resources in building construction sector. So if I ask you a question like, so I hope now we have a better understanding on scarcity and what do you mean by scarce resources and all. And as I said, the building economics is under the main tree of economics. And under building economics, we are mainly targeting on the application of economic principles which are related to the construction industry. Are we clear so far? Any questions that you need to raise before moving forward? Anything that you need to clarify before moving forward? If nothing, you can put it in the chat as well. Okay, totally clear. Thank you. I'll take it as a compliment. Okay. Next, we need to know about two terms in economics, which is very useful. That those are the demand and the supply. So what do we mean by demand and what do we mean by supply? In economics, the term demand refers to the amount of goods or services which consumers are both able or willing to purchase at all alternative prices. So demand, let's say for an example, we have a particular product in the market. The demand for that product referring to the amount of that particular product the consumers are willing as well as consumers are able to purchase at any alternative price. That simply means even though the consumers are willing to purchase a product does not mean they are able to purchase it. That is because they need to have a sufficient financial background to purchase a particular product. Let's say for an example, a high-end product like let's say a jewelry, right? A gold jewelry. Most consumers are willing to purchase that product, but not all the consumers are able to purchase because we have financial bearings. So the demand in economics referring to the amount of a good or maybe a service which consumers are both able and willing to purchase at all alternative prices. So here we have goods and services as two terms. If I ask you what is the difference between good and a service, what do you think? Good and service. What is the difference between goods and services? Basic accounting principles, as it seems. Maybe you might have learned them in your O levels. What is the difference between goods and services? Yes, we have an answer. Yes, exactly. Goods are tangible, services are non-tangible. Yes. What do you mean by tangible? Tangible is we can touch and feel, right? Goods we can touch and feel. Goods are tangible, but services we can't touch and feel. So those are not tangible. So these economic principles are related not only for goods, those are related for the services as well. So what do we mean by this? Demand is basically the amount of goods or services which consumers are able as well as willing to purchase at all alternative prices. That is what we mean by demand. I hope it is clear for you, the demand. Then the supply, it refers to the amount of goods and services which sellers are willing to sell at all alternative prices. So even though we have a demand for a particular good or service, we should have a supply for that as well in order to so that supply referring to the amount of goods and services which the sellers are willing to sell at all alternative prices. So did you identify here the demand is having connection with the consumers while the supply is having a connection with the sellers, because the demand is mainly for the consumers and supply is mainly for the supplier or the seller. So supply refers to the amount of goods or services which sellers are willing to sell at all alternative prices. Why do we have these alternative prices? Because not every time every product will be priced at the same price. It is not common for every product to be priced at the same price. We will have different prices for different product. Let's say for an example, a biscuit, different brands might have different prices. That is based on the demand and based on the supply. So how to decide on these prices are what we're trying to understand by using the relationship between this price and the quantity of demand. So the relationship between the price and the quantity demanded is what we call as the demand relationship. The relationship between the price and the quantity demanded. So consumers are demanding this much of quantity on this much of price. The relationship between that price and the quantity demanded is what we call as the demand relationship. Are we clear on these two, demand and supply? Any clarifications on this regard? Anything you need to clarify on this regard before moving forward? Okay. Next. we have something called as law of demand. What do you mean by law of demand is if all other factors remain equal, the higher the price of a good or service, the less people will demand that particular good or the service. So you can see in this diagram, this is what most of the textbooks have as the demand curve. Okay, we have a question on the previous one. What is mean by alternative price? Yes. For an example, let's say we have a biscuit. Let's say the biscuit Mari. So we have Gold Mari, we have Tikiri Mari, likewise different brands. So different brands have different prices. Those are alternative prices. For the same product, we have different prices. Those are alternative prices. So whatever the product is, the demand for that particular product in all alternative prices are what we call as the demand. It's not only referring to one particular price, it is referring to all the alternative prices. Let's say the Mari, we can have Mari packets for 40 rupees, 45 rupees, 50 rupees, like by different alternative prices. For all these alternative prices, we still have a demand for that. Does that answer your question, Prasan? Yes, okay. So the law of demand is simply if all the other factors remain equal, other factors in the sense, let's say the external factors, the political backgrounds or the external, whatever the external factors, the technological or the electrical wise or whatever the external factors remain the same, the higher the price of a product, the less people will demand on that particular product or the service. This is the demand curve. This is what we called as the demand curve. In most of the textbooks, you will see this sort of a demand curve with a linear graph. But in the actual scenario, it will be something, it will have some differences. I will explain it as well. So according to this demand curve, which is linear here, you can see y-axis is representing the price and the x-axis is representing the quantity. What happens if the price of a product is 0? That means the product is free of charge. So you will have a demand which is very high for that particular product, right? If the price of the product is 0, that means if the price of the product is somewhere here, 0, if the price of the product is 0, then we will have a demand, very high demand for that particular product because it is free of charge. On the other hand, if the price of the product is very high, somewhere here, if the price of the product is very high, then the demand is reducing. You can see the demand is reducing. Why? Since the price is high, the demand is reducing. The ability to buy this product by customers are reducing. So this is the basic relationship of the demand. You might wonder, if you think further on this particular curve, whether we can identify particular number of demand for a particular product if it is free of charge. Can we say this is the demand for a product if it is free of charge? And at the same time, can we say the demand for a product is 0 if the price is this much? What do you think? Two questions. First one is, can we identify the demand for a particular product if it is free of charge? Second question, can we say a particular price where we have 0 demand for that particular product? What do you think? Can we say the price of a product where we have 0 demand as well as can we identify the demand if the price of the product is zero? That means the product is free of charge. I'm asking a yes or yes no question with an explanation. Think of it and put your answers in the chat. First one, can we identify the demand if the price of the product is zero? Second one, can we identify a price for a product where the demand is zero? Just take few minutes and like few minutes in the sense 2 to 3 minutes to identify an answer for this question and put in the chat. Don't you have any answers for those two questions? What is the demand of a product if the product is given in free of charge? On the other question, what should be the price of a product to have zero demand? Okay, we have an explanation here. I think once a product is given free of charge, it is not practical because the company has no profit. Yes. Also, if the price is at its maximum, when the demand is at zero, there's no point in maximizing the price because no one buy this product. There's no point in raising the price. Exactly, the very correct answer. So that is why basically in these graphs, it is not filled in this part and here. It is not touching the x-axis, not touching the y-axis because as Asan clearly mentioned, once the product is given free of charge, it is not practical because anyway to produce that particular product, there will be a cost incorporated. So if the product is free of charge, then no profit will be gained by whoever the supplier. On the other hand, if the price is at its maximum, when the demand is at zero, so there's no point in maximizing the price because all the suppliers all the producers are producing products or services to sell them. If the demand is zero, then no point of producing them because no one buys this product. So no point of raising the price as well. So that is why we basically have this sort of a gap in near to the x-axis as well as to the y-axis in this demand curve. In some textbooks, you might see The demand curve is something like this. It is going to the infinity in this end as well as in this end. That is also correct. So that's basically saying the demand will be infinity if the price is 0. And if the demand is 0, the price is infinity. So we can't say this is the exact point where the price should be for have 0 demand, as well as we can't say this is the exact price to have unlimited demand. Or when the price is 0, we can't say this is the demand for that particular product, right? I hope it is clear for you, the law of demand. Anything that you need to clarify on law of demand? Anything? No clarifications? Is it clear for all of you? Yes. Okay. So similar to the similar to the law of demand, we have something called as law of supply as well. So what do you mean by law of supply is the supply relationship. If all the factors remain equal, the higher the price of a product, the higher the quantity will be supplied. If the product can be sold at a higher price, the suppliers will supply higher quantity of that particular product. Producers supply more at a higher price because selling higher quantity at a higher price increases the revenue for them. If we can sell higher quantity in higher price, it will increase the revenue for us than selling higher quantity in lower price or selling lower quantity in higher price. So that is what we called as the law of supply. So you can see the graph, it is having a linear graph like this. If the price is low, the quantity supplied is also low. If the price is high, the quantity supplied is high, because selling higher quantity in higher price will have higher revenue. Selling lower quantity in lower price will have lower revenue. This is what we call as the supply relationship. So you can see the supply relationship is directly proportional to the price, the demand is inversely proportional to the price. Are we clear with the law of supply as well? If all the factors remain equal, the higher the price, the higher the quantity supplied by the suppliers. That means producers or the suppliers will supply more at a higher price, because selling at a higher price in higher quantity increases the revenue for them. Clear? Any clarifications on this regard? Clear. Okay. So if we move into the relationship between the demand and the supply, as I said earlier, in general, demand is inversely proportional to the price. That is why increase in the price will decrease the demand. The demand is inversely proportional to the price, while the supply is directly proportional to the price. Increase in the price will increase the supply as well. Increase in the price will decrease the demand, while increase in the price will increase the supply. That is why we say demand is inversely proportional to the price, while supply is directly proportional to the price. So in building economics, this demand simply translates into the construction demand, which in turn supply translates into the construction supply. The construction supply is commonly termed as the construction output as well. So in building economics, we are referring to the construction demand and construction supply, not the general demand and the supply. It's just a translation of demand into construction demand and translation of supply into construction supply. If we talk about the country's economy and its construction investment, those are interdependent. Interdependent in the sense those are having a dependency among them. If the construction investment increases, the country's economy will also increases. If the construction investment collapse, the country's economy will also collapse. So their causal relationship is bidirectional. If one increase, other also increase. If one decrease, other also decreases. Okay. In this diagram, you can see how the construction industry, the relationships and the processes in the construction industry happens with related to the national economy. We all know there are several participants or individuals who are dealing with construction projects. For an example, the client is there. Client can be either public or private client. Financials will be there who are financing the projects. Local authorities will get involved. Landowners will be there. Government departments, planners, the structural and other designers, specialists in consultants, contractors will be there. Under contractors, we will have subcontractors. We will have material suppliers, and we will have some plants, equipments, and other specialists. Likewise, we have several organizations as well as several individuals incorporated with the construction industry. We need to know that all these individual organizations have interdependence among them. Those are depending on each other. Client is depending on the contractors, financiers, local authorities. Likewise, all these individuals have interdependency. None of them can work independently. They have interdependence. Then the construction inputs from all of these participants will lead to the program development, inception, design realization, and construction, and finally to the construction. So we are starting with the program development. Then we have the inception. We will design it. We will realize it and try to construct it. Finally, we come to the construction phase. So this is what we call as the project conception to completion. So project concept from design and project completion in the right hand. So when we focus on construction industry, we can subdivide the construction industry into several subsectors. For an example, the road construction, airport constructions, irrigations constructions, water supply, public office buildings, commercial buildings, hotels, residential buildings, schools, hospitals, maintenance, and other subsectors. Likewise, we have several subsectors under the construction. For each and every subsection, there might be several expertise as well. So above the construction subsectors, we have the total construction industry. Above the total construction industry, we have the national economy. So the level 1 will be the national economy. Level 2 will be the construction industry. Under them, we have several subsectors of construction. Under subsectors of construction, we have the project inception to completion level. Under them only, we have the individual participants of the projects. Are we clear on the relationship and the processes in this construction industry? Anything that you need to clarify on this regard? This is a very important diagram which shows the relationship between the construction industry with the national economy. You can see how interdependence national economy and the construction industry, how they are depending on each other. Any clarifications before moving forward? Anything that you need to clarify? Clear? Yes, this slide again. Okay. The project manager participants, the level 5. Yes, each and every individual will be participants under level 5. So the level 1 is the national economy, that is the highest level. Under the national economy, we have the total construction industry. So the construction industry will be there under the national economy. When we consider the construction industry, we have several subsectors of construction. Those are the roads, airports, irrigation, buildings, public and commercial, hotels, residential buildings, schools, likewise. Under them, we have the project conception to project completion stages. So each and every project will have conception to completion stage. So to have this conception to completion stages, we need these individual participants. It can be either organizations or individuals. So the clients, financials, local authorities, landowners. So what do you mean by the project manager is maybe project manager can be in contractor side as well as project managers will be there in the consultant side as well. So of course, project managers will also be participants under the level 5. So each and every individual participant or individual organizations will focusing or will engaging on project conception to completion stage, which is under level 4. These project conception to completion stages will be there for all the construction subsectors, that is under level 3. All the construction subsectors will be under total construction industry, is under level 2. This construction industry is under the national economy, which is the ultimate level of level 1. So this simply shows the national economy is having a relationship or interdependency between the construction industry. On other terms, all these individuals or individual organizations are related to the national economy as well. It's a step-by-step, level-by-level structure, but still level 5 people are also important to the level 1 national economy. Did I answer your question, let me? As well as Pasan? Yes? Okay. So we can move forward, right? So why is it important to learn building economics? Why we need to have an idea on building economics? Actually, the importance of building economics is to introduce or to integrate the economic principles in construction projects from early design stage to the construction stages. We need to introduce as well as we need to integrate the economic principles in construction projects from the design stage to the end. It will help us to manage the cost overrun through cost management. So we can have an eye on whether the cost of the project is exceeding the allocated budget. This can be achieved through cost management. And on the other hand, it helps us to manage the time overrun through the time management. So whether we can see whether the time allocated to the project is exceeding in the actual scenario. So for that, we can use the time management. And it helps in meeting the client's requirements within the given time and the given resources. We can monitor whether the client's requirements are achieved within the given time as well as within the given resources. It looks at life cycle cost rather than the initial cost. Mainly we are referring to the cost as the initial cost. It's not only the cost at the initial should be considered. We should consider the life cycle cost as well. Life cycle cost in the sense, let's say what happens to the maintenance part. For an example, let's say the highway projects in Sri Lanka, expressway projects in Sri Lanka. So if we only concerned about the construction cost of the expressways, it will not give a clear idea on the return on that particular investment, because that the construction cost can be covered within 5-6 years after construction through the toll fees and all. But after 3 or 4 years, there will be maintenance problems coming up as well. So we need to maintain those roads, maintain those tolls, correction sections and all. The system should be maintained as well. That maintenance costs, which is under the life cycle cost of a particular project, should also be considered when we are talking about the total cost of the project. It helps us further to provide most economical solutions for a particular problem. Let's say we have a particular problem. Let's say, for an example, we are we are uh, we are trying to identify which is the most suitable material to be used for particular construction. So in this regard, this building economics will help us to identify the most economical solution. Most economical solution will not only considered on the initial cost, it will be considered in the life cycle cost as well. So whether the initial cost is lower, if it needs to be maintained, if it needs to be if we need to spend more time and money on maintenance purpose on a particular material, then no point of going for that particular one. Even though the initial cost is higher, then the maintenance cost is lower, so it will be the most economical solution. Likewise, it will help us to provide the most economical solution for a particular problem. And finally, not finally, actually, you will be able to find more importances of these building economics. So here the final point is it provides value of money to the client. So whatever the money spent by the client, it will provide a value for that particular money. Clear on this slide, the importance of the building economics? Any clarifications? This is why we actually need to focus on building economics in construction industry. Are we clear? Okay. Next, we will try to focus on the economic resources. So resources can be defined as the inputs that we used in production of those things we desire. When we talk about the production of things in the sense for the building economics, the production of things in the sense the construction projects. So whatever the inputs we used for the construction projects will be economic resources for us. These economic resources can be categorized as 4 productive resources. 4 productive resources in the sense resources which are having the ability to produce something, which are also called as the factors of production. Those are the land, the economic capital, labor, and the entrepreneurship. Those are the 4 productive resources which can use them to produce something. Land, economic capital, labor, and the entrepreneurship. So whatever the money we spend on these economic resources, we generally term them as explicit costs. Whatever the money we spend on the economic resources, we call them as explicit costs. So what do you mean by land? What do you mean by economic capital, labor, and entrepreneurship? Any idea? Land, of course, you might know. What do you mean by the economic capital? economic capital. Yes. What do you mean by economic capital? Yes, what is economic capital? Okay, Nimati says investment. Any other answers? Okay, we have another two answers. Person says capital required for any company to survive any risk. Okay. Sandakalam says amount of money that a company needs to survive from risks they face. Okay, so what are these risks that you are referring to? Actually, the land is any natural resource, including actual land, but also trees, plants, and all. So we know that economic capital is anything that's manufactured in order to be used in the production of goods and services. Not the distinction between financial capital and the economic capital. But you have mentioned all your answers are regarding the financial capital. The economic capital is a productive thing which we can use to produce goods and services. Money is not always productive, directly productive. The tools and the machinery that it buys can be productive. So if we refer into the economic capital, the tools and the machines or machinery that we have is the economic capital. But the money is the financial capital, which is not productive. The economic capital also includes the human capital as well, but we can categorize this human capital under the labor forces as well. Any human service, physical or intellectual, will be categorized under labor. Also, we refer them as the human capital. So economic capital is not the financial capital. That is the main thing that we need to know. Financial capital is whatever the monetary value which is not productive. We can't use them to produce another thing. But the economic capital, those are productive, which can be used in the production of goods and services. The financial capital, we can pay them and buy something, but we can't, using the financial values, we can't reproduce things. But whatever the things we buy using the financial capital might be economic capital because we can use them for a production. We can use them in productive way. For an example, the tools and machinery that we buy using the financial capital can be an economic capital because those tools and machineries can be used to product things again. Is it clear? Finally, the entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the ability of someone in the sense we call them as the entrepreneur, to recognize the profit opportunity and organize the other factors of production and accept the risks. Someone with a startup or someone with an idea for a particular problem will be an entrepreneur. He will recognize a profit opportunity and organize all the other factors of production in order to achieve that particular profit opportunity and accept the risk incorporated with them. Are we clear on the basic definitions of these economic resources? Do we have any clarifications on these things? No clarifications? No questions? Okay. So based on these economic resources, there are respective returns from these resources as well. Those are the rent for the land, wages for the labor, interest for the capital, loyalty for the information, goodwill for the business reputation, profit for bearing the risk of business ownership. Money spent on resources is explicit cost, as we discussed earlier. Money spent on the economic resources are explicit cost. That means out of pocket cost for a business payment for salaries, rent, etc., which we use to buy resources. Another type of cost is there called as the implicit cost. That is what we called as the opportunity cost. So we are trying to moving into the opportunity cost. Explicit cost is we are spending them to buy resources. Implicit cost are opportunity cost. That is something else that we are trying to learn now. So implicit costs or the opportunity cost. The value of an alternative foregone by choosing a particular alternative. Let's say we have several alternatives among us and we are choosing one particular alternative. That particular alternative will have an opportunity cost. That in the sense, whatever the value of the alternative that is foregone by choosing that particular alternative. Let's say we have three alternatives A, B, and C. We are choosing alternative number C, and we are not considering A or B. So let's say A is having a cost of $10, B is having a cost of $5, and C is having a cost of $2. Based on the cost, we have choose the lowest cost alternative, which is C. So due to the choose of alternative number C, there are two alternatives foregone. The value of the alternative foregone, the value of the highest alternative foregone by choosing a particular activity is what we call as the opportunity cost. That is equal to the return on most profitable investment choice minus the return on investment chosen to pursue. Here we should have a minus sign. Return on most profitable investment choice minus return on investment chosen to pursue. That is what we called as the opportunity cost. You can see it in the formula here as well. Opportunity cost is equal to return of most profitable investment or return of next business out best alternative not chosen minus return of the option chosen. The return of next best alternative not chosen minus the return of the option chosen. Or in other terms, return of the most profitable investment minus return of the investment chosen to pursue. Are we clear? Are we clear, guys? You might get a better understanding on this opportunity cost with this next few examples that I have put into the slide. Okay, for an example, can you all try to do this example? A person named Saman decides to use clay bricks instead of cement sand bricks. So you have the clay bricks or cement sand bricks. He has chosen clay bricks over this one for his house construction. So the size of the clay brick and the size of the cement sand brick is given here. Size of the clay brick is having 9 inches into 4 inches into 3 inches. 9 is the length, 4 is the width, and 3 is the height. Size of the cement sand brick is 14 inches into 4 inches into 7. 14 is the length, 4 is the width, and 7 is the height. So he has chosen clay bricks instead of cement brick. What it asks is, they have given the cost of a clay brick, cost of a cement sand brick, labor cost for one clay brick laying, labor cost for one cement sand brick laying. They're asking us to find the opportunity cost of choosing clay brick over the cement sand brick per square feet. So first of all, you need to identify how many clay bricks are needed for a square feet, how many cement sand bricks are needed for a square feet. Then we can identify the opportunity cost of choosing clay bricks over the cement sand bricks. Can you try to do this alone first? And put your answers in the chat so we can discuss whether your answers are correct. Work out the question for both options, for clay bricks and for cement sand bricks, and identify the total cost for laying clay bricks and total cost for laying cement sand bricks per square feet. And then we can compare and identify the opportunity cost. Yes, I will show it. Here it is. Dimensions for the clay bricks are 9 into 4 into 3. Dimensions for the cement sand bricks are 14 into 4 into 7. Let's say these clay bricks are laying, having the face side in 9 into 4, not into 9 into 3, right? Not that bed joint. And the cement sand bricks will have 14 into 7 as the face side. Okay, we got an answer from Nilaksha. What about others? I think the time is enough for getting an answer. So per square feet, how many clay bricks were needed? And for square feet, how many cement and bricks were needed? Yes, 4 clay bricks were needed per square feet. How many cement and bricks were needed? 1.46. Let's say it is 1.5. Okay. So cost for 4 clay bricks are equal to cost for 4 clay bricks should be equal to 80 rupees, right? Yes. And the labor cost for laying 4 clay bricks will be 100 rupees, not plus 25. The labor cost for per 1 clay brick is 25, right? For 4 clay bricks, it will be 25 into 4, that is 100. Not for the entire construction, the labor cost is 25. It is not for the entire construction, it is per 1 clay brick. Labor cost for 1 clay brick is 25. Therefore, 25 into 4 should be 100. So in that regard, total cost for laying clay brick per square feet will be 100 plus 80. That is 180 rupees. Am I correct? Netmi, what was the answer you got? Opportunity cost as 67.5. That means 67 rupees and 50 cents. Okay, we'll see. So the total cost of laying clay bricks are 180 rupees. So similarly, what is the cost? The number of cement sand bricks we required was identified as 1.5 bricks. So cost of laying 1.5 cement sand bricks are, for 1 cement sand brick, it is 45 rupees cost. So 1.5 in the sense 1.5 into 45, it is 67.5 rupees. And the labor cost of laying 1 cement sand brick is given as 30 rupees. Therefore, for 1.5 cement sand bricks, it will be 45 rupees. Therefore, the total cost for laying cement sand bricks will be how much? Total cost of laying cement sand bricks should be how much? Nilaksha? Or Laksha, I don't know. Yes, 112.5. Yes, exactly. 180 rupees for laying clay bricks and 112.5 rupees for laying cement sand bricks. Therefore, the opportunity cost should be 180 minus 112.5. That is the opportunity cost of laying clay bricks over cement sand bricks. That means the cost of laying cement sand bricks minus the cost of laying clay bricks will be the opportunity cost of laying clay bricks over cement sand bricks. You will get an answer of 67.5 LKR. Are we clear on this example? Anyone with any clarifications or any problems with this particular example? Only 2 students have answered in the chat, but I hope all the students have tried this example. Am I correct? all got the same answer with different answers, but still now you understood what's the correct answer and what's the correct method of doing the question, is it? Okay, can we quickly go on to another example question before winding up the session? Mr. Saman decides to use the train to get to his workplace in Bambalapitiya rather than driving each day. The train fare each month will be 3,000 rupees. After 1 month, he calculates that he is spending 10,000 rupees less on petrol and about 2,500 rupees less on maintaining his car. What is the opportunity cost of using the train? So you should calculate the cost of using the train per month, and you should calculate the cost of using the car per month. Then only you can calculate the opportunity cost of using the train. If you got an answer, you can put it in the chat. Yes, the opportunity cost is 9,500 rupees. Is it the same answers for this as well? Yes. Okay. It seems all of you got the same answer. So are we clear on what we learned today? The basic introduction of building economics, starting with the economics and then moving on to the building economics, and finally for calculating the opportunity costs. Anything that you need to clarify before winding up the session? And I would like to know whether am I too fast or too slow for you for the lectures, since it is the first day of lectures for you. Just to just the speed of the lectures and the way I am doing. Anything, any comment, anything that you need to clarify before winding up the session? Okay. Okay. So with this, we can wind up the session for today, and we'll be again meeting on next week to continue the session. Probably, we will have. We can move on to the next lesson from next day onwards. And before winding up the session, I would like, yeah, since we have done our 2 examples, yes, fine. So next week we can move on to the trade-off and production probability curve and do another example on that regard as well. And then moving on to the next part. Thank you for your cooperation, guys. Have a nice day.